The 49-year-old Uzumaki who became Hokage. Please like, share, and subscribe. Episode 21, Windfall. Jing Yan used all the witness points in one go, and the strength finally had a qualitative leap. There is finally a patriarchal strength, and there is a state of sacred surgery. This time the harvest is really great. Jing Yan thought about it. The purpose of this trip has basically been reached. He is ready to wait for the end of the line between the practice and the column go back together. 2 days later, Masahiko was already familiar with his huge ascension, and the column also ended the cultivation of the fairy. At this time, although the column cannot enter the immortal mode as soon as possible, he has shortened the conversion time to 1 minute, and the duration of the immortal mode is far more than that of Masahiko. I believe that it will take a long time to fully grasp it. The two ended their practice and discussed it and decided to bid farewell to the immortal. Before you leave, I still have something to give to you. The immortal learned that the two had to leave, and did not feel surprised, but gave them a reel. This is the psychic scroll of my family. After the contract, I can summon my avatar. Although I can't help much in combat, I am still good at treatment. Yan Xianren said slowly. The two looked at each other and did not expect such an unexpected gain. Jing Yan is even more puzzled in his heart. There is no psychic in his memory that has been used in the column. Is it because of my influence? Or is there a psychic spirit between the columns, but there is no contract, but it is left to the master? Masahiko didn't think of it, but what he didn't even think about was still behind. After the wet bones, the column will not accept the scrolls. Second grandfather, I have already accepted the Luoshengman psychic scroll, this time I will give you anyway, said the column. No, granddaughter? Nothing, slippery. Well, I took it on the scroll. Jing Yan couldn't help but promised. After the big deal, I will hand over the reel to the hand, and I can mix the masters of the class? Jing Yan thought so, but felt that it was not bad to accept the scroll. The next line of familiar Chinese characters tells him that he can accept the scrolls correctly. To witness and change the important branch of the Naruto world, the spirit of the beast, get the witness point 2. It was also a 4-point testimony. It was just used to witness the point. Finally, there was an emergency. Jing Yan did not use it immediately, and saved the 4 points. Masahiko and the two of the columns ended their practice in the wet-bone forest, and they planned to take a trip to the Lieber family and tell them individually. After they arrived, they discovered that they were preparing to migrate their families. After sealing their blood, Jing Yan also told them that because of the excessive natural energy here, it caused the body to mutate. Therefore, in the past 3 months, the seal of Masahiko has gradually deepened, and the Lieber people have never lost control. In order to avoid being affected by natural energy again, the Lieber people decided to move the family. This time, Yan and the column arrived, and the Lieber chief also came to meet him personally, and he followed the big man who played against the column. Dahan saw Jing Yan and the column, and the expression on his face was still unwilling. It seems that he was forcibly sealed and transformed, but it is still a bit uncomfortable. However, he will be swayed between the columns and he will not be transformed. In short, he does not dare to have any opinions. The spirit of the Lieber chief is excellent, it is just radiant. Masahiko's fine induction, it turned out that he had a breakthrough, it is already a peak to endure. The Lieber chiefs warmly welcomed them and wanted to keep them for a dinner. Masahiko is very eager to stay and eat well. These days, in the wet bones, it is not necessary to be like a Naruto in the Mickey Mountain to eat insects, but the cockroaches eat leaves and grass. So these days, I have not seen the meat. However, after more than 3 months in the column, I just remembered that he was still the patriarch of the Chan family. In short, there was no way for Jing Yan to hurry between the columns. The two simply went to lunch and returned to the land of the thousand hands. As for the Qianzhou people who stood there, they returned to the Qianzhou area 3 months ago. After all, in this war, the warring states are constantly going on, and it is impossible to let such a unit take 3 months off. On the way, the column also said to Jing Yan, it seems that the blood power of the seal of the Lieber family is still a good thing. Although this ability to transform can give people a short-term strength, it may also limit their own potential. I see this time going back, the strength of the Lieber patriarch seems to have improved. In a short period of time, they may be exhausted, but... Jing Yan hesitated. After all, the blood is sealed, and their descendants are afraid. Seeing Jing Yan's words in the column and asking, I'm afraid what will happen? I am afraid that I will gradually lose the qualification to become a ninja and become a civilian. In this troubled world. Masahiko continued. Does the descendants become civilians? Whispered, between the columns. That's the end of the chaos, before they have not lost their power to protect themselves. Jing Yan did not hear the inner monologue between the columns. He thought that the column was worried about the future of the Lieber family. I can seal the blood and don't tell others that this ability is too dangerous. I know, Grandpa. The column promised, and the two fell silent. After a day and a half, they finally returned to the Thousand Hands. Big brother, you are finally back. Before the Thousand Hands, I learned that the column was coming back, and I took the initiative to meet at the gate of the ethnic group. How is it like a little daughter who has been abandoned? Xing Yan sighed, inexplicably want to laugh. Turning around in the meantime, I obviously heard the words of Masahiko. Second. Grandpa, you have worked hard all the time. Your child, when I call me, I always feel that I emphasize a word. Xing Yan smiled. If you don't want to call my grandfather, you can call me Xing Yan. Xing Yan can also. Look at your big brother and big sister won't kill you. No, unwilling, Grandpa. Interrupted immediately. I am willing to. The group said with a smile and walked toward the patriarchal hall. Entering the patriarchal hall, the column immediately turned black. Don't, there are so many documents that have not been processed, he shouted as if his body was hollowed out. Big brother, after all, I am not a patriarch. I can't handle some things. It's only a small part of it. He said, looking like there is always some feeling of resentment. Xing Yan looked at this scene and felt some goosebumps on his body. I always thought that the world of Naruto was a world of brothers, but after 2 years of contact with the pillars, Masahiko always felt. Don't worry, you are afraid of a deep hidden brother. Episode 22, Daily Return. Masahiko thought about this time with the Hui people in the column, and soon he could go out to Ujibwa, mixed with the witness point and headed for the peak of life. As a result, the reality gave him a head start. In recent months, Qianshou and Uchiha have been in peace and have been caught in a strange honeymoon period. It may be a year-round campaign, the two families are too large, and there is a tacit understanding of the truce. It is estimated that they will not be able to fight in a short time. After staying in the hands of the Qianshou for 3 days, I was tempted to sneak a sneak peek at him. Seeing his unwillingness to reluctantly call the unhappy face of his grandfather, Xing Yan was very happy. Of course, he also went to see the Mido from time to time, and now the Mido can't sustain the appearance of that girl. After all, the stomach is getting bigger and bigger. As for the column, the official duties left to him in the daytime have been completed until now, and he can't wait to go back to accompany the Mido. After 2 days of doing nothing, Masahiko intends to return to the whirlpool and wait for the battle here to join in the fun. However, the column received a message from the Uchiha family. Masahiko was not happy for a long time, and the reality gave him the second best. Thousands of hands get news, and the day comes back. Uchiha's change is entirely directed at them. Speaking of the Japanese family, it has been 12 or 3 years since Uchiha was forced to cultivate by the Shu. This time, I am going back to the world, and I want to come to the patriarch who is still in the sky. The elite in the family has completely changed a group of people. For more than a decade, it has been completely replaced by a generation. Speaking of the day, the 4 strong men of the old era left him alone. Yukibo Taijima and the Thousand Hands Buddha belonged to the wind and the valley battlefield. Huiyi was the right person to see his death 5 years ago. The Japanese family will come back, and the Japanese will not feel that they are the strongest in the warring states. Let's do things. Now the spot is not good. I learned that the column between the gods can be slammed in minutes. However, I am quite looking forward to this scene. However, the reality has given Xing Yan a heavy third. Someone reported that the Japanese patriarchs and the patriarchs were asked to see the patriarchs, and the people waited at the gates of the tribes. Hell, so rude? Xing Yan thought, it seems that I can't see the old predecessors looking down on the younger generation, and the result is swayed by the younger generation. In fact, it's exactly that I'm thinking more. The so-called old man is getting fine, the Japanese family returns from retreat, and how can it be difficult to investigate the recent situation of the warring states? Of course, the day is tolerant to the court, and the columns can't slow them down. After the night of the country that fled the water, the country of the fire can be said to have only 1,000 hands, Uchiha and the Japanese. The column personally went to the outside of the family to meet the day to heaven, and there was a group of guards. I asked several people to enter the hall, and the entire column couldn't wait to ask a question that many people would like to know. The patriarch of the Japanese, why did you attack Uchiha more than a decade ago? Although you and Uchiha also counting hostility, but there should be no endless hatred. Day to heaven, the face is bitter, sure. 13 years ago, we received a secret letter from 1,000 hands, let us sneak into the 4th training ground of the Uchiha family, and we should cooperate with each other to fight Uchiha. Your 1,000 hands and Uchiha were fighting at the time. I didn't think much, I sent a small team to Uchiha, detection. As a result, the defense of the Uchiha family was surprisingly low. The squad of our family has not been found in the depths of their clan, and they directly attacked their 4th training ground. Later, we were retaliated by Uchiha, but you did not follow the promise to block Uchiha. At the time, I really wanted to ask for 1,000-handed Buddha. but these years, I thought about it. This is a very embarrassing thing. Listen to your question, you don't know the secret letter. Between the columns, I looked at each other and immediately went out to find the big elders who had already retired. After a while, I returned and shook my head slightly between the columns. The day is forbearing, and the eyes are closed, it seems that someone is posing with us. Having said that, the Japanese patriarch is very biting. Don't let me know who it is. On the side, Masahiko shook his head slightly, thinking, I don't know if you know who you are, you can't hide it for hundreds of years. I can't find him with white eyes. Day to Heaven endured the memories of the past and began to talk about the trip. In fact, there is nothing to say. If you come to the present day, you still have to look at Uchiha, and you have to find a hand to do a reconciliation. In fact, this matter is not difficult, because Uchiha personally bury their allies at night, and now Uchiha can no longer face the Thousand Hands and the Japanese. Therefore, now that Uchiha has some action, it may be that Uchiha does not endure that breath and wants to avenge his brothers. Thousands of hands are willing to reconcile, and it is not good for the elders of Uchiha. However, even if the Thousand Hands and the Japanese are allies, they cannot help them without compensation. Of course, I also know this point, I said. To thank you for your help, we have brought you a big gift and an important piece of information. Intelligence? The column was unrecognizable, and Masahiko was also greeted with interest. The patriarch of the Thousand Hands did not notice that the several medium-sized families in the West are more fierce fighting each other? There is this, but is there any problem here? The column looked at the room and nodded. There is a small ethnic iron mine in the West that dug up Chakra's conductive metal. Chakra conducts metal? Surprisedly said in the column, so much. Fell into meditation. Masahiko also concentrated on the spirit. Chakra's conductive metals, whether in this warring country or in the future wood leaves, are always a rare material. It is pitiful, Xingyan, the 53-year warring state's life, has never seen a chakra conduction weapon. The Vortex family has chakra conduction metal, but the amount is too small, may only make a few thousand. Chakra conducts metal. I don't know the shuriken that is mixed with this kind of metal. Will I be more happy when I use the sword to change my body? Thank you for the intelligence of the patriarch. The column ended with contemplation, and opened the way to the sky. I will talk about it in Uchiha. Thank you for the patriarch, then we will leave. Sending the sun to the outsiders, the column suddenly remembered one thing. Is the patriarch of the Japanese, do not know which small family to dig out the chakra conducting metal? It's a small family called Fei Fei. And many more? Flying? Masahiko's expression is stiff on his face, and thousands of hands won't grab the flying minerals in the warring states. Episode 23, Western Situation. On the second day, Masahiko got up early in the morning and was ready to run around the Thousand Hands to move the body. As a result, just after the Thousand Hands, I saw a person returning from the outside. Between the columns, did you go out last night? Xingyan was puzzled. At this time, the column should be accompanied by the Mido at home. After all, it is necessary to set off to the west to compete for mine. Ah, Grandpa, morning exercise. The column smiled and said, isn't it the Japanese patriarch who told us to talk to Uchiha yesterday? I went to talk last night. Where are you going alone? What about you? Asked Xingyan. In the meantime, I went to the west to explore the intelligence. Second grandfather, wait for him to come back, don't tell him that I went to Uchiha. The secret between the columns cannot be said. Oh, understand. Xingyan returned a sentence. At this time, Yan Yan had fully understood that the column should have been with the spotted base last night, and there was no accident. The column between the columns of the fairy tales was hanged, so the heart between the columns must be happy. As for the spot, now you should be depressed in the family. Xingyan thought about it. After a boring day, another week, I finally returned to the Thousand Hands. However, when I saw the column, my face was very ugly. Big brother, the situation in the West is a bit of a hassle. I thought about it and said. Now the West has become a mess. Too many families are involved. If we participate, I am afraid that they will be attacked. Which families are involved? Asked the column. Now the West is divided into 3 camps. The first is the weakest minor leagues, including the squadrons, Jitsuan, Fengma, and so on. They are the helpers of the squadrons who want to keep the chakra conductive metal. In addition, in the middle are 3 medium-sized families, canines, oil girls, and flag trees. The strongest are also 3 medium-sized families, Qiu Dao, Nara, and Shanzhong, which are complementary between the 3 family secrets. Pig deer butterfly, so it is stronger. We don't have to be hostile to them. We can join one of the forces and alliances. Xingyan smiled and spoke. I saw Xingyan in the daytime. I think so too, but who is the same as the alliance? If you choose the strongest 3, they will have an advantage. I am afraid they will not want us to join, and the middle 3 are relatively too strong. I am afraid that a large part of chakra conductive metal will be divided, the weakest miners are too weak, and one patriarchal level is not. We have to face the existence of other 6 families. In fact, if it is not such a time, it is not a problem for 1,000 families to face 6 patriarchs at the same time. But what is embarrassing now is that the older generation of patriarchal powerhouses are already semi-retreat, and their age, if they fight another war, they will have to retire completely, and the next generation led by Qianshou Tianyu, it's still so bad when it's long. It is impossible for the whole army to attack the whole army. After all, there are also Uchiha people to be prepared. Nothing, they have 6 patriarchal levels, and we have 3 of us here. Big brother, I and my 2 grandfathers are afraid that only one person can drag a patriarch. You have to be on the same 4 people at the same time, and the 3 patriarchs of the pig deer butterfly may be difficult to deal with. Worried. Xing Yan smiled and said, you have a little look at your older brother, and it is even more excessive that you still look down on me. You are like this, I have to play 10. During the day, he chose to ignore Xing Yan, and then said to his older brother, even if you have dealt with 4 people, you can go there personally. I am afraid that Uchiha will be ready to move, and other elders can deal with it, but Uchihabo. Do not worry, in the daytime. Xing Yan intervened again. It is estimated that the spot is now being practiced in a place where no one is. Cultivate? A little bit confusing. However, Xing Yan and the column are no longer open, no one gives the answer. Although I don't know what happened, I still reacted to it. It is estimated that his big brother has done something good. In the meantime, I was helpless. In this case, then I am going to gather the people, and I will leave tomorrow? And, who do I need to bring? Don't leave tomorrow. As for who to take, I will take it with Tianyu on the peak. He will break through and need to hone. If other people say it, bring a few elites to endure, let them take the patience and let them end up. Practice it. Think about it in the column and slowly open the way. On the peak, there is only one person in Tianyu, and there is something wrong with the endurance. Nothing, there are 2 grandfathers and you. As for the other 6 patriarchs, just give it to me. After hanging the spot last week, I have a clear understanding of my current strength, even if the 6 patriarchs do not think they will lose. Yes. It's obvious that I still want to say something, and I want to stop talking. Relieve, now you can cross the country in the warring states. After a few more years. I am afraid that one person can change the era of the battle. Xing Yan smiled and spoke. Well, I am reluctant to return to the sentence, and slowly go out to gather the ethnic group, obviously still not worried about his unreliable big brother. There are only 2 columns in the hall, and there are 2 people in the hall. I think about it in the column. I open the door to Masahiko, 2nd grandfather, the last time you passed the contract, you have a contract. Yes, the contract. I will use this war. The treatment of the 1,000 hands of the people will be handed over to me. Now Xing Yan, compared to the 5 generations of the shadow of the hand, I am afraid not to lose in the amount of chakra a few points. No, I think. If I can't hold the 6 patriarchs across the street, can you keep their lives if necessary? The column was a bit embarrassing. No problem. Xing Yan promised to be very happy. As soon as the request between the columns was raised, Xing Yan understood what he meant. In order not to create greater hatred? The column has begun to work hard for the establishment of the wood leaves. Xing Yan thought. Seeing the gratefulness between the columns, Masahiko also walked out of the hall. Although the gratitude of the harvest of the ninja god is very fulfilling, but between the columns. In short, gratitude has gained more, and the sense of accomplishment has long since disappeared. The rest is just awkward. Looking at the comfort of 1,000 hands and a family has fallen into a busy, Xing Yan shook his head, went back to write a letter to the family, the trustee sent to the Whirlpool family. Generally speaking, I don't have to worry about me. I am a good person in the hands of thousands of people. I have to be a great elder. I want to ask the patriarch to ask for a whirlpool of ambassadors and other ambassadors. Position. I don't know what the feelings of the vortex chief will see when they see the letter. In this way, Xing Yan followed the team of thousands of people and arrived at the Feifei family 2 days after the road. Episode 24, Grab the Bell, Inside the Flying Family. Masahiko is boring, and the column and the room have been invited to the living room to discuss the alliance. In fact, they have not started the war and they have been discussing the distribution of benefits. Xing Yan did not want to listen to their wrangling, and then they went out to hang out. The area of the flying family is not small, although it is not as good as 1,000 hands, but it is not worse than the night. To put it bluntly, the entire western part of the country of fire has a feeling of being sparsely populated, and the land is not fertile. Is it close to the country of sand, and the desertification is serious? Masahiko remembered a predecessor's terminology, desertification of the land, and instantly felt that his cultural level had gone up. Thinking of these things, Jingyan gradually came to the corner of the Feifei nationality. Here, he found two teenagers who were practicing. The age of the two teenagers is only about 12 years old, which is the age at which Naruto graduates, but the strength is the level of ordinary tolerance. Jingyan looked at them and felt confused. If he can't get a witness point, his strength will only break through to the ordinary at the age of 49. Now the teenager, really don't give others a way to live. Jingyan muttered to himself. Hearing the voice coming from here, the two teenagers stopped practicing, and they looked over at Jingyan, and they were confused. It was obviously the first time they saw red hair. One of the teenagers hesitated to speak. I heard that the people of the easternmost vortex of the country of fire are red hair, and the uncle is a whirlpool? When I heard the young man call him uncle, Jingyan smiled and opened the flower. Although the two grandfathers who can do the column and the day are very cool, they always feel that they are old. Then smiled and said, "Youth, have a vision." I don't know if I praised the other person and recognized him as a vortex, or praised him as his uncle. The two teenagers looked at each other and apparently couldn't figure out why Jingyan was so happy. Another teenager hesitated and asked, "Uncle, are you here, something?" "Nothing, wandering." Jingyan smiled and said, "I have nothing to do with it anyway. I will meet you both and practice. See you very pleasing, and give pointers to you." Spiral pills. Jingyan said, condensing a spiral pill on the ground, stirring up a smog. Is this unmarked ninja? I have a bell here, hand sword change. Who can grab me and teach this ninja to anyone? Masahiko is obviously a bit of a bad taste, playing it. Grab the trick of the bell. The two teenagers looked at each other and looked at the big pit that the spiral pill came out. Obviously, they were somewhat heartwarming. At the same time, I said, "Then we are welcome." Afterwards, the two did not immediately rush forward, but tentatively threw out a few bitterness, and they hid in the nearby shrubs. Obviously, the child who cultivated to the end in the warring states is much stronger than the one that is Naruto. At first glance, it is obvious that Masahiko is not weak, knowing how to move and then move. However, Masahiko is not Kakashi. He has the sensibility of the whirlpool, so these hidden things are not useful to him. In order not to dampen the enthusiasm of the two teenagers, Masahiko still pretended to look around. However, the acting is really anxious. Even if you look around, why do you still see the sky? The two teenagers will not come to the palm of your hand. In short, the intention to lure the opposite attack is too deep. Sure enough, in the induction of Jingyan, the two teenagers quickly changed the hiding place. In this way, the Tibetan cat game was carried out for 10 minutes, and Jingyan was somewhat embarrassed. Okay, don't hide. I am half a perceptive ninja, and it is impossible to sneak into me until tomorrow. The two teenagers heard the words, jumped out of the bushes, and looked like a positive attack. Health, one of the teenagers shouted. Know it, the wind vacuum jade. Another teenager promised, and spit out several high-pressure wind from the mouth to Jingyan. His original intention is to do another attack for another teenager. Although there is only one bell, but this kind of thing can be taught to each other, there is no need to fight each other. Surprisingly, in the face of this kind of attack, Jingyan was quite embarrassed. The teenager who was waiting for the bell to grab the bell could not help but stopped. He said, "Uncle, you can't do it. Is it really good to face both of us at the same time?" Jingyan cried and smiled, and gave him a thumbs up. "Youth, speech interference is doing well. Your companion will not be the legendary health. You are the embarrassed." Another teenager blushes. "I am named Shimura Ken." "Ah, sorry, let me go, I won't be distracted again." Jingyan forced a smile. Shimura was forced to anger and said, "Sasuke, this time you come to attack." "Oh." Masahiko couldn't help it, and smiled and bent. The two teenagers looked at each other and some were puzzled. The thought in mind was that this uncle would not have any problems. "Count, you are amazing, a healthy, a two-pillar, I Huhan 3 served." Jingyan took a while to slow down, and said. "The Vortex Huhan 3 uncles, this is our success in grabbing the bell." Jitsu and Jian said. Masahiko smiles, "Whirlpool Huhan-san. My name is Swirl Jingyan, it's not called Whirlpool Huhan-san." Another young boy said, "My name is Sarutobi Sasuke, and it is not a two-column." Well, see, you give me so much fun, this ninjutsu will teach you both. Although Masahiko is familiar with the name of Sarutobi Sasuke, I can't remember where it appears. It took an hour to tell the two teenagers about the cultivation method and cultivation principle of the spiral pill, and briefly told the advanced direction of this ninjutsu. The two teenagers began to practice, and Masahiko also wandered around to go elsewhere. "Right, Sarutobi Sasuke." Xing Yan suddenly thought about it. Isn't this the third generation of his father? This is not the third generation of the spiral pill. Can you learn it? Forget it, learn it. Wait, and with the help of Fei Sasuke, Jitsu and Jian will not be a group of his old man. Forget it, let's talk about it later. Xing Yan thought for a long time, although the past life was very unhappy with the group, and now can't turn back and kill his old man. In any case, I can live in the age of the group to get things done, and it will be solved by then. Masahiko wandered for a long time, didn't find anything interesting, just thought about going back to see how the two young spiral pills practiced, and a momentary moment appeared in his side. Two grandfathers, big brothers, they have already negotiated. Tomorrow we directly occupy the iron mine, where it is good to keep it. Now the patriarch of the Fei prepared a banquet, and the older brother asked me to call you. I have been hungry, eat, and eat. Xing Yan touched his stomach and smiled. As for you Fei Sasuke and Jitsu and Jian, it is not so important compared to eating. Episode 25, the coalition also has 30 minutes to reality. It is ridiculous to say that the 6 medium-sized families have made a big fight for the Fei mine, but now the mine still belongs to the Fei family. Thousands of people and a group of people arrived at the mine unimpeded, and settled the camp here. That's right, there are only 1,000 hands. The Xiaozu League finally said that it would not participate in the war, as long as 10% of chakra conducts metal, and if they participate, it must be 30%. Regardless of the block between the columns, it means that the 1,000 hands and the family can cope with the other 6 families. The result turned out to be the case. Thousands of people went to the mines of the Fei family alone and camped here. In the eyes of Masahiko, the hand of the 1,000 hands and the family took out a handful of shovel in the baggage. After that, a group of several people dug up near the place where the chakra was excavated. Xing Yan looked at the column and wondered, they are. The column explained, we may have to stay here for a few days, and the other 6 families can react. Taking advantage of this time, let the people dig the mines. As for the mine shovel, they are brought before the departure. Masahiko is stiff, if that's the case, why not bring mine? The mine is too big to be carried, he explained. It's too big? There is no seal scroll. Xing Yan said here, only to react. In the Warring States period, there was no such thing as a seal scroll. Seal real, what is that? Asked the column questioningly. Nothing. Masahiko was perfunctory, thinking about the seal scroll. I don't have a seal scroll yet. Can I make it with my seal level? In the daytime, we and the ninja also joined in. I dug the mine early. The column said, to grandfather, you, whatever you want. Xing Yan thought about the seal of the scroll for a long time, but because there is no material here, he can only go back to study, so he joined the mining camp. I took a shovel and started to squat in the place where no one was. After a while, the shovel was broken. Look around, see no one found, and went to take a mining shovel. After destroying 3 or shovel continuously, Masahiko found that he suddenly became an experienced miner. How to use the shovel? This situation, probably. Xing Yan glanced at his property bar, and sure enough, one more in the special talent. Mining LV1, 1/100, special talent, mining? I feel that I have lowered the level of my induction talent. Masahiko looked at his testimony, and he gave him 4 points. He tried to add a little to mine. Mining LV6, 10,000/20,000, suddenly, he rose to the 5th level. This time, the son of Xing Yan digs up the mine and if he has the help of God, he will dig up a pile of iron ore in a short while. It turns out that even if your technology is better, it is better than the Europeans. There is a large piece of chakra conductive metal dug out between the columns. Masahiko expressed dissatisfaction and took a shovel to open the bow. Until the evening, the iron ore that he dug out alone might be more than 1,000 hands, but Masahiko expressed his service. At the same time, the 6 family battlefield. During the day, I had just experienced a big battle. At night, the patriarchs of the 6 ethnic groups got together in the camp of the Nara people. They all received news that the iron ore had been occupied by thousands of families. Awful 1,000 hands. The canine patriarch spoke openly. It is not enough to occupy the fertile land in the eastern part of the country of fire. I want to join us in the west. Nara patriarch, what do you say we do? Although they are hostile to each other, each family here is more convinced of the Nara family's strategy. It's also a good thing to get involved in 1,000 hands. The Nara patriarch slowly said, the 6 of us will fight again and only add more casualties. The tribes have already formed alliances, and I am still worried about being profited by them. There are not many people who will participate in this 1,000 hands. They also have the enemy of Uchiha. The 6 of us will unite and will not lose to them. There are not many people coming. My bugs only detect less than 1,000 chakra reactions, but 2 are extremely large. I am afraid we are several times more. The oil female patriarch slowly opened her mouth. One of the two should be between the Qianzhou and the Qiangzhou. I am afraid that it is stronger than us. As for the other, it should be a vortex. This family was originally known as the chakra. It should not be difficult to deal with. Open the road. That is the way we have 6 people to go out together and drive them away directly? Asked the Autumn Road chief. No, the 6 of us are the best in deterrence. Although we don't want to admit it, the other party is so daring to come and be hostile to us. I am afraid there are ways to deal with us. The biggest possibility is that the 1,000 columns are stronger than we think. The Nara patriarch slowly opened his mouth. We fight the war of consumption. We don't do it with 6 people. We can't do it between the hands of the hand. We have 6 build-ups, and at least 3 times their other strength, they can't afford it. As for the vortex people, the amount of chakra is so large, I am afraid it is also a patriarchal character at the crucial moment. Please, you, the flag tree chief. The Chimu family is the most special among the 6 ethnic groups. The first is the number, only less than 100 people, can be called a medium-sized family, all because this family is good at fighting, and the flag wooden patriarch is very strong, stronger than everyone here. Since entering the patriarch, Chimu has been sitting in the corner with a knife and no openings. His participation in the competition did not bring a tribe, but the Barking and Oil Girl family promised to give him a part of chakra conducting metal and casting a good knife. At this time I heard the Nara patriarch asking questions. He slowly nodded and he resumed silence. That's it, I will go back to collect the people now, and I will go to the legendary Warring State's first big family tomorrow. No hurry. The Nara patriarch said, 1,000 hands should now be mining. We can relax for a few days and let the people rest. Just stop them before they return. They are mining for us. A few people in the audience, including the Nara allies ally Qiu Dao and the Shanzhong patriarch, all thought the old fox of Nara. However, since it is beneficial to them, there is no reason to oppose it, and during this period of war, the people should cultivate for a few days. In this way, the hands of a family of people have been happily mining for half a month, and Jingyan's trip to Africa has also spent half a month. A total of nearly 100 kilograms of chakra conductive metal was dug up, and no one was related to Jingyan. The other 6 families have not been attacked. The column between them thought that they had given up and competed with the Chang family. They wanted to let the people pack up and return, and then someone reported it. The 6-member coalition also has 30 minutes to reach the battlefield. Episode 26, War of Attrition. I thought that this competition had been going smoothly. I didn't expect it to come when I left. Half an hour later, the 6-member coalition reached the foot of the mine. The 6 patriarchs stood in front of the array, and the Nara patriarch shouted at the column gap, the patriarch of the 1,000 hands, thank you for mining for us. As a thank you, chakra's conductive metal can give you 20%. I didn't pay attention to the column. I saw a look at Masahiko, and Masahiko nodded slowly. In the first few steps between the columns, the hibiscus, the tree world is born, is still a familiar formula, or a familiar taste. The terrain near the mine was completely changed between the columns and turned into a lush forest. All the members attacked, the big brother's raft will not hurt our own people, shouted loudly, rushed out, thousands of hands Tianyu followed. Jingyan did not rush to the enemy with the day, but instead stepped back and took a few steps. The 6 patriarchs looked at each other and the Nara patriarch shouted, fighting. Afterwards, in addition to the patriarch of Chimu, the other 5 people turned around and surrounded the pillars in the middle. The flag patriarch was looking for Masahiko. Jingyan smiled and waved his hand. Is it the flag tree chief? You and I will not be able to win the game for a while, and you don't have to work too hard for other families. Why not sit here with me and see the battle? The flag tree chief looked coldly at Jingyan, slowly nodded, and sat down with a knife. After a while, I still said one sentence, you and I will fight, and we'll win the game in a flash, but I really don't have to sell for them. Jingyan's mouth twitched and almost couldn't help but jump up and fight with him. The canine patriarch saw the situation here and couldn't help but ask the patriarch of the flag, but was stopped by the Nara patriarch. Don't worry about him, it is enough to be able to entangle the vortex race. Our opponent is between the 1,000 pillars. Just stop him and we will win. In the face of this situation, there is no urgency between the columns, and there is no intention to attack the other 5 patriarchs. Although the 5 patriarchs felt that something was wrong, they did not do it. The number of people was 3 times opposite. The stalemate is good for them. However, after half an hour, the battle over there was unexpected to the expectations of the 6 ethnic groups. The first is the day, beyond imagination, facing the 6 peaks of the 6 races, and not falling into the wind. Secondly, the 1,000 hands Tianyu, also blocked the majority of elites with one person. The exaggeration is that many of the 1,000 hands and ones endure, facing the enemy 3 times their own, actually still occupies the upper hand. These are enduring and resilience are amazing, a little hurt, and will heal in a blink of an eye. So half an hour has passed, except for the people who have been killed and injured, the state of everyone is just like a war. Somewhat wrong. The Nara patriarch muttered to himself, if 1,000 hands have such resilience, they should have unified the country of fire. The Nara patriarch did not find any problems for a while, until he saw a small handcuff in the end of 1,000 hands. Hey? Medical type psychic beast? So. The Nara patriarch turned, the oil female patriarch, pay attention to the vortex. His chakra is a bit wrong, it seems to be half less than before. The oil female patriarch replied. Sure enough. The Nara tribe turned black, the flag of the patriarch, fast hands. The swirling people opposite you are using the psychic beast to treat the 1,000 hands. It was still discovered. Jing Yan sighed and stood up, and the patriarch of the flag tree also pulled out the knife. The horrible chakra volatility was uploaded from the knife of the flag wooden patriarch, and the blade was sharp and sturdy, as if it could divide everything into 2. Flagwood knife? Jing Yan whispered, the famous white-tooth knife in the world of Hua Ying has always been a mystery in the past life. It can be learned in advance in this warring country. The flagry patriarch was smashed out, and between the knife was near the top of Jing Yan. However, under the slash of a knife, Jing Yan, who was supposed to be split in 2, changed into a wooden stake. Replacement surgery? The flagwood family's brows are slightly wrinkled. Flag knife is to inflate chakra on the knife and use the chakra flow of the blade to lock the enemy. Since the flag patriarch trained the sword to Deshang, no one has escaped his knife at the time of the enemy. At most, it is hard to follow. Masahiko just felt locked, but the LV-10's avatar is not interfered by the flag patriarch. Call, good risk. Jing Yan sighed with a sigh of relief, said with a smile, I wonder if I dare to say that I can solve me in a flash, flagwood knife, so terrible. Masahiko imitated the sly sigh of the One Piece, a vivid expression of a sultry expression. Rao is the flag of the patriarch, and he is also very angry. He did not speak, but then went to Jing Yan with a knife. This knife is an ordinary knife, and the attachment of chakra to the knife is very expensive for chakra and mental consumption. Jing Yan did not make another substitute. He continued to transport chakras to the donkey, saving a few chakras and saving points. Since the addition of the wet bones, Jing Yan's physical ability has exceeded 300 points, in terms of pure surgery, has no longer endured on the peak of a body surgery. I took the knife of the patriarch of the flag, and you came to me to fight. Although it is not as strong as the patriarch of the Chimu patriarch, but Jing Yan did not fall for the wind with his own swordsmanship and 3 body skills. The battle lasted for half an hour, and the chakra of Jing Yan had already consumed almost, and gradually fell to the disadvantage. Fortunately, the number of people in the Chimu family is not much, and the patriarch of the flag tree has gradually become the end of the strong. At this point, the battle on the other side has become clear, relying on the sturdy spirit of Masahiko, the 1,000 hands and the family have occupied the absolute upper hand. The Nara patriarch shook his head. One move is wrong, all the losers are The patriarch is the leader, let your people stop, don't increase the casualties. As for the attribution of chakra's conductive metal, let us decide a few. You seem to be confident that one person can win us 5, then come to a game to win the game. Said, the Nara patriarch slowly turned to look at the other 4 people, I decided so, you have no opinion? The other 4 also saw that the situation on the field was not good for them and they no longer opposed it. When they saw the agreement between the columns, they nodded and shouted, in the daytime, take the people out of the place. Leave the rest to me. In the meantime, I promise to take it down and take the family down. The coalition forces were also brought back by the various ethnic groups, and the flagry patriarch shook his head and followed them away. Masahiko took back the sorrowful spirit and followed the battlefield from the hustle and bustle. He believed in the column more than he did. At this time, in the center of the battlefield, only the column and the 5 patriarchs remained. Fight, at the touch of a hair. Episode 27, Battle of the Giants, Battlefield Center. The 2 sides of the war have been far away, and the atmosphere here is even heavier. One person in the column faces the 5 patriarchs of the bark, the oil girl, and the pig deer butterfly. Even if they are confident in their own strength, their expressions cannot help but dignify. The 5 patriarchs looked at each other. The Nara patriarch gently nodded to the oil female patriarch and the mountain patriarch and decided to test it first. Shadow mimicry. Mystery, send bad insects. Mystery, the heart of the heart. The 3 men attacked at the same time and attacked the column from 3 directions. The hibiscus flower tree world is coming. In the face of the attack of 3 people, the columns did not dodge, and the giant trees that joined the sky not only attacked the 5 people on the opposite side, but also defended the attack of 3 people. In the face of the attack between the columns, several people showed their magical powers and fled. The dog-in-law's face was black and the attack between the columns was too much for him. In the face of ubiquitous pollen, he is really intolerable. The dog around me also screamed at him, and it was obviously uncomfortable. The canine sergeant touched the partner's head and gritted his teeth, tooth. The canine patriarch and the canine became 2 human-shaped saws, destroying the woods between the columns. It's not so easy to solve the opponent between the columns, and the hands are printed, Moo Moo Man's technique. Hundreds of meters away, Jing Yan looked at the tens of meters tall wooden man who had condensed between the distant columns. The tiny opening, it was the first time I saw the technique between the columns. It was really outrageous. The battle should be settled. When he was half finished, his face was stiff. Hey, this is a bit exaggerated. It turned out that the use of the wooden man between the columns, the Autumn Road chief finally shot. An ultramagnification technique has changed to a giant with a height of more than 100 meters, compared with the wooden man next to it, like an adult and a child. Masahiko saw worries in the side of the room and said, "Relieve, maybe it's just a sham." When the words were not finished, I saw that the wooden man between the columns was broken by a boxing. Inema. Is this fat family so strong? In fact, this is the illusion of Xingyan. The reason why he thinks that the Qiudao family is not strong is because the original Mid-Autumn Festival is the strongest of the Ding's father, and an elite. The volume change of the Qiutu family will also undergo qualitative changes. When a patriarchal release of hypercapsules, the power of the giants that have changed will produce a qualitative change. The opening of the day said, "Second grandfather, why do you think so?" The Qiudao family is the second strongest family of the country of fire, and it is not much more than the night. The second strongest country in the fire? Jing Yan's mouth twitched. Where did you put the 8 armor? 8 armor? What is that? Asked questioningly. I also want to know what the 8 armor is, and where can I learn? Masahiko slowly opened his mouth. Before Jing Yan did not find the correct use of the system, he also played the idea of 8 armor. What he thought at the time was that since he passed through a battle, he could not become a strong man, but he also wanted to bloom in the moment. Through the first time in the original 4 wars, I saw Kai 7 doors, saying, "It is not red steam, it was underestimated." Prove that the 8 armor is in the warring states, and the spot should have seen 8 doors. The power of opening, but the other side may not be as strong as K, the spot has not got 6 bodies to win. However, Jing Yan struggled for 2 years and did not find out where the Mat family was. It is possible that people are a single pass, and there is only one person in each generation. More likely, according to Kai's appearance to Shaoli, maybe it is to see a thick eyebrow and then pass it on? In short, at the end of the day, Masahiko almost put a thick eyebrow to go out and sway. Jing Yan thought about the 8 armor, and gradually forgot the column between the battles, until a shock shocked him. Looking up, I saw a bigger wooden man in the column, and I was almost equal to the head of the Autumn Road. The 2 of you came and went to fight. The other 4 patriarchs couldn't get in the first place and could only interfere with it. The raft, all the bags of the technique. The column was printed again, and the wooden man grew dozens of hands and grabbed the Qiudao. Super push. The Autumn Taoist shouted, the 2 palms became bigger, and the wooden hands were crushed one by one. Mystery, shadow stitching. Mystery, broken teeth. Mystery, insect jade. The 3 patriarchs shot at the same time, and instantly broke the wooden man between the columns. The column is about to continue to condense, and the patriarch of the mountain shouted, the secret technique, the technique of the mind. Although it was impossible to control the column, it caused a moment between the columns. In the face of the attack of the patriarch of the autumn, the condensed wood man was too late. Psychic Wu Duo Luo Xingmen. Using the 5-fold Luo Xingmen blocked for a moment, and the columns were condensed together. The battle that followed was in an infinite loop. The other 4 families assisted, the main leader of the Autumn Road, the battle of the giants continued for half an hour and did not win. At this time, the 6 people of chakra have consumed nearly half of them, and they have stopped each other with tacit agreement. Thousands of patriarchs, it seems that our 2 sides are evenly matched. I am afraid that there will be no wins and losses in 1.5. It is better to have a half-point of chakra conduction metal. It is not necessary to be born and killed, Nara Patriarch thought about it, opening road. At this time, the column was closed on the wooden man's body and did not answer. Thousands of patriarchs? The Nara Patriarch did not answer the column and asked one. Not good. Attack him quickly, the Patriarch of the Autumn Road. The Patriarch of the Mountain felt the strange feeling from chakra on the column. At this point, the eyes have been opened between the columns, two pale blue eyeshadows appear on his face, the immortal mode is launched. Shanfaming Shenmen. Several portals descending from the sky firmly suppressed the Chodao patriarch, even if he narrowed his body, he could not escape. Not good, everyone is careful. The Nara people were shocked and prompted a few others. However, it is useless in the face of the column that opened the ferry. Sinfamuji thousands of hands. The hands clasped together between the columns, creating a big Buddha with hundreds of meters of body full of arms. Top Buddha. Hundreds of huge arms hit the ground. In the distance, Masahiko saw it here and smiled, the battle is over. Sure enough, the smoke has been exhausted, and the battlefield has been turned into a huge valley. The ferry mode has been lifted between the columns, sitting on a tree root to adjust interest rates, while the other four patriarchs have escaped from the top of the Buddha, but they have been tricked. The aftermath of the shock was comatose. The worst thing is the Autumn patriarch, who is under the pressure of the Mingxin and bears the most power. Fortunately, Mingxin men also defended most of the attacks on the top of the Buddha for him, and he was spared. The column was tuned for 5 minutes. The day has once again brought people to the coalition forces. The 5 patriarchs of the coalition are all in a coma, and they are guarding against the attack by thousands of people. Looking across the column, I smiled and did not continue to attack, but said, "Let's go, Hui people celebrate." Episode 28, Forging. There was no remarking between the columns. On the way to the Hui people, they sent people to send a 10% chakra conductive metal for the Feifei family. As for how the various tribes are divided, it is not what they need to care about. I don't want to be reluctant, but Jingyan smiles. Because after sending Chakra's conductive metal to the Feifei family, he flashed a row of familiar Chinese characters in front of his eyes. Witness and participate in the story of the Huiying World branch line, Fei Yan's origin, get a witness point of 2 points. After thinking about it for a long time, Jingyan remembered that Fian was the weapon of a Sima in the Huiying plot. It was a surprise that this knife was created by the chakra conductive metal that was obtained this time. It is said that Feifei Asma is the great-grandson of the patriarch of the cockroach. This weapon is really a long-lasting inheritance. 1 month after going out, Jingyan used 1 testimony on the mining. This time, he got 2 points. In total, he earned 1 point. After going out for a month, I earned a little testimony, or I was surprised. The warring states can get too few testimonies. Jingyan is not very satisfied with this harvest, but there is no way. Returning to the 1,000 hands, it is the favorite part of Masahiko, and celebrates the banquet. Satiate and drink, the column opened. This time, we have harvested a lot of chakra conductive metals, and those in need can record it in the daytime. The thousands of people have a look around, no one is embarrassed to speak first. Masahiko smiled and stood up. In the daytime, I need 2 swords. Nodded in the daytime, it is remembered. Masahiko opened his head and the people of the 1,000 hands suddenly jumped up. Don't think that chakra, which is less than 100 pounds, has very little conductive metal, because a weapon cannot be made entirely of this metal, and the main body still needs iron. Therefore, this time, the harvest is very large, so that the ninjas who have endured the above-mentioned ones are all at least suffering. The next day, Masahiko and I arrived in the founding house of the 1,000 hands. It is filled with iron ore and some were used by the assistants. The blacksmiths are working hard to build the weapon blanks, and the masters will mix the chakra-conducting metal into the weapon until the billet is formed. Yes, it is rare for chakra to conduct metal in the warring states. Only the master of the blacksmiths has the experience of using chakra to conduct metal. Second grandfather, this time you need to build too many weapons. Looking at the work of the blacksmith's house, he said, I am afraid that the weapon of the trick will finally be built by the master, you are not in a hurry. Don't worry. You said the weapon of the trick, you also need a weapon? Jingyan asked questioningly. Yes, I need a sword to use with the thunder god. Masahiko said, the sword in the daytime will not be the sword of Thor in the plot. If you get involved, this is not another branch story, at least there are 2 witness points to take. When Yan Yan's eyes turned, he said to the opening, I don't have to wait so long, I will build it myself, and I will create a sword for you. Second grandfather, are you still forging? A few days ago, I noticed that Izumi was very skilled in mining, but I did not believe that Masahiko would forge. Jingyan glanced at him. You will be a grandfather. Into the forging house, Masahiko took a hammer and started to hit the iron. The face is black, this is called forging? Obviously there is no rule, there is a knock on it. Jingyan hammered for half an hour, the iron became a discus, but the forging appeared on the property bar. Masahiko glanced at the room and looked awkward. I haven't hit the iron for many years, and some hands are born. He glanced at him for a moment, thinking that this is never an iron. No longer hope for Jingyan, turned and went to do something else. Jingyan's face is black, this time it's a little shameful. It shouldn't be. According to the experience of mining, it's reasonable to say that it's half an hour, and the property bar should be forged. I have been busy in the blacksmith's house for a day, and it is a rising fire. It is also a charcoal. Finally, before the work was completed, Jing Yan completed a bitter forging with a blacksmith master before he found forging in the property bar. Forged LV1, 0/100, call, it is really troublesome, and there is still a forged weapon to activate. Jing Yan breathed a sigh of relief, he just thought about giving up, but gave up too much face in front of the day. Seeing that forging finally appeared, Masahiko added 1 point without thinking. Forged LV6, 10,000/20,000, this edition is really not very scientific, even the forging experience can be directly instilled in my mind. Jing Yan thought. I wanted to try to build 2 hardships at once, but I watched the blacksmiths have turned off the carbon fire and prepared to close the door. Masahiko also felt hungry and only remembered that he had not eaten at dinner. After dinner, Jing Yan searched his mind for the forging experience he just got. It turns out that the level of forging of LV6 is basically the limit of mortal people, that is, the master of forging. It is estimated that the master of the blacksmiths of the 1,000 hands is this level. Masahiko looked at his remaining witness points and there were 4 points. The 2 panes that I have created for myself will not be used for a long time. It is estimated that I will gain some testimony to the sword of Thor. Masahiko gritted his teeth and added 3 points to his forging attributes. Forged LV8, 40,000/60,000, this way I can build 2 soldiers tomorrow. Artifact? I don't know how to draft a sword. Jing Yan thought about this and gradually fell into a dream. Early the next morning, Jing Yan rushed to the foundry house with great interest. In just half a day, Jing Yan created a sword in both hands. The forging of LV8 is different. It is not surprising that the sword is created. However, Jing Yan inadvertently used it to cut through the forging furnace, and the forging furnace was immediately opened with a gap. When you got it, get into trouble. Jing Yan's face changed, and he took the sword in both hands and walked out quickly. After thinking about it, I went to the second driving range of the 1,000 hands and tried the sword in both hands. Because of the addition of chakra conductive metal, Masahiko immediately tried to pour chakra into it. Oh. Masahiko blinked a little, because the shuriken in his hand gave a dazzling glow after pouring chakra. In this way, it is not suitable for sneak attack. Probably more infusion of chakra, will the enemy be shaken? Jing Yan said to himself. Jing Yan measured the shuriken and slammed it out. Just want to seal the use of the sword to replace the body, but the face changed. In the next second, Masahiko replaced the position with the shuriken. There is no need to seal. Masahiko almost laughed. Isn't this the technique of Flying Thunder God? Looking back at the place where he stood, Jing Yan shook his head. It's still not very convenient compared to the Flying Thunder. The swords in these 2 handles can't be used as disposable items. It seems that the seal scroll is going to be put on the plan. Just make a psychic scroll like the 7 knife. Tomorrow, let me see the forging of his second grandfather. Episode 29, Thor Sword, did not wait until the next day. Jing Yan could not help but show off the heart, found the day. After the instructions came to the attention, the face was helpless. To grandfather, you, learn to forge? What is learning? I will have it. You see my sword in these 2 hands, which I created myself. Jing Yan felt that he was ridiculed. During the day, I saw the swords in the hands of Jing Yan's hands. The surface was plain, and it was no different from the ordinary standard shuriken. This is what I think in the daytime. The same is true in the mouth, is this not an ordinary standard shuriken? Look carefully. Look at it. Look at your eyes. Jing Yan said angrily, and injected chakra into the shuriken, a dazzling light emanating from the shuriken. Is it clear? Jing Yan's question was asked. Oh. I can't see anything now. He blinked his eyes and said with helpless smile. Masahiko. In short, after a variety of demonstrations of an hour, I finally reluctantly believe that Jing Yan will indeed forge. Second grandfather, you said you want to build a sword for me. This is fine, but it is too late, the forging house should be rested, let's go tomorrow. Nothing, it's still not closed. We used to build it and finish it again. Jing Yan said with a smile. I couldn't help but see that I couldn't help but follow Jing Yan. But halfway, one of them tolerated them. The big man, the patriarch is looking for you. Don't you, you are here. The column opened. There was an accident in the forging house. What's wrong, big brother? Asked in confusion. A forging furnace has been blown up, as if it had been opened with a sharp weapon before. Masahiko's face turned black all at once. Seeing the change of the face of Masahiko between the columns, he said helplessly, 2 grandfathers, you won't be doing it. Careless. Xing Yan said with some guilty conscience. Forget it, only 2 blacksmith masters have been slightly injured, the next time you pay attention to it. There is no way to say Xing Yan between the columns. Well, pay attention. I am going to treat the 2 blacksmith masters. Xing Yan said, and I am too embarrassed to wrap it around for a while. Seeing Xing Yan walking away, he breathed a sigh of relief. Big brother, the second grandfather must give me a sword. Nothing, in the daytime, it's a big deal to rebuild it. There is no way to discourage between the columns. Sure enough, the next morning, Xing Yan found the day and pulled him to the forge. Looking at Xing Yan reluctantly, "To grandfather, you will be forged after you have forged it, why should you drag me over? Can that be the same?" Xing Yan glanced at him. My own weapon looked like it was forged, and it felt different. What's different? I want to talk about it again, but I saw that Xing Yan is already busy. I have no choice but to watch. Looking at it, I also let go of my heart. Xing Yan's forging is obviously more than a few days ago. It doesn't look cluttered, but it seems to have a different kind of beauty. America? I must be crazy. Muttered to himself. Half a day later, Xing Yan forged a sword, at least in the eyes of the day, this sword was very successful. Take it and try it. Xing Yan handed the sword to the day. Indirectly, I tried to wave 2 times and nodded with satisfaction. Good, very easy, and the weight is very suitable. Xing Yan handed over a bitterness and said, cut and try, don't worry, it won't break. Nodded in the daytime, with the sword to the suffering and the painlessness. A good weapon. The face was radiant and praised. Protection? This is an artifact. Masahiko took the sword, his face turned red, and he entered the sword with more than half of the thunder attribute chakra. Okay, this time it will be completely completed. Indirectly, I tried to inject chakra into the sword, and the blade immediately gave off a dazzling white light. The face is black and dazzling white. I haven't come yet and asked if Xing Yan has any preference for white light. I feel that the sword in my hand seems to be able to break everything. Go, let's go to the first driving range and try the sword. Masahiko saw the hesitation in the day and took the initiative to speak. The 2 came to the first driving range, and Xing Yan took the initiative to explain, this sword is transformed into a light sword by the huge thunder shaka I injected. Most of the ninjutsu can resist. After being cut, I will receive an electric shock. And make the whole body paralyzed, can cut anything. Its blade can be retracted freely, can be retracted into the hilt when not in use, carrying light. During the day, I tried to recover the blade and I was able to do it. Most of the ninjutsu can resist? I still don't believe it. Try it. Spiral pill, said Masahiko, condensing a spiral pill to attack the day. Swinging the sword during the day, I was able to break the spiral pill. A level ninjutsu, actually able to defend directly. More than a grade, Daiyu spiral pill. In the meantime, the sword was subconsciously swayed, and the Daiyu spiral pill was also split into 2 halves. There is also this kind of non-energy attack, the wind, the damage. The bandit, the earth dragon bomb. One by one, open Xing Yan to continue, and quickly stop. Well, my grandfather, how do I feel that you are taking me to practice ninjutsu? Directly attack with your strongest ninjutsu. The strongest ninjutsu? Masahiko smirked, are you sure? I feel a little wrong during the day, but he is confident in the sword and his opponent, and he also saw Xing Yan's strongest ninjutsu in the battle of the night, thinking that he can take it. Sinfuin spiral sword. Masahiko shouted and threw out Naruto's signature ninjutsu. A pair of expressions, to grandfather, you want to kill me. Were dare to harden, hurriedly use the technique of flying thunder to escape. The spiral shuriken thrown out by Masahiko destroyed most of the first driving range of the Chiba family, but Masahiko was not very satisfied. Sure enough, the power is a lot worse than the top Buddha between the columns. A momentary appearance appeared in the side of Xing Yan, his face was very dark. Well, don't be angry. Xing Yan smiled and said, whoever makes this little devil disrespectful to the second grandfather, dare to let me attack with the strongest ninja. Is not satisfied with my new weapon? Give it a name. During the day, I calmed down my mood and said, satisfied. Since the thunder property is infused, it is called the Sword of Thor. Just wait for your words. In the eyes of Masahiko, there was a row of familiar Chinese characters. Testimony and completely changed the story of the Hua'ing World branch line, the Sword of Thor, and get the witness point too, 10. Completely changed? 10? By the way, now this Sword of Thor is not crushed by Naruto and Sasuke's spiral pill and thousand birds like the original. This wave, make a big profit. Episode 30, Bad Boy. The thrilling forging house has been busy for a whole month. The forging matter has come to an end. In the meantime, Masahiko softly rubbed the shackles and asked for a chakra to conduct metal, and once again created a two-handed sword for himself, which is enough for the time being. The sword is built, and the seal scroll should be put on the agenda. It took a total of half a year to test which bark was used to make the reels, and finally found out that it was best to use the raft between the columns. In vain for half a year, Masahiko wanted to start making reels immediately, and found that the thousands of hands were radiant, and it was the new year. After spending the new year with the pillars, Masahiko was 1 year younger and he was 30 years old. But in the eyes of others, he is already a 55-year-old man. In the past year, Masahiko has invested in the research of seal scrolls. Originally thought that it would not be difficult to make a seal reel with his seal. However, the seal scroll is also involved in the space after all. In this respect, Xingyan does not understand at all, and he has to ask him to help him. Thousands of families often need to go out to war, and they have led the team many times. It took a full 3 years to go. 3 years later, Xingyan looked at the familiar Chinese characters and almost cried out. Thank you, and change the story of the Huaying World branch line, seal the scroll and get the witness point too. I spent 3 years and actually got 4 testimonials. Small changes? Is there any difference between the creators and the creators? Damn, who did it in the original work? Is it so powerful? It can match me and the day. Fortunately, I have other gains, and the seal has improved by 1 level, which is equivalent to getting a 20-point testimony. In the end, Masahiko can only comfort himself. To grandfather, the Constitution is coming to see you. A young childish voice brought Xingyan back to reality from the chaotic thoughts. Masahiko's face is black. This bear child is coming again. Xian, the child of the column and the Mido, is also the father of the next 5 generations of Huaying. In the past 3 years, the person who is looking forward to seeing it has become the most troublesome person in the company. Perhaps it is the perfect inheritance of the genes between the columns. This child has shown a lack of adjustment from an early age. In the past 3 years, the seal scroll that Xingyan tried to make was torn by him 5 times. He was almost unable to maintain his body 4 times by his beard, and secretly replaced Xingyan to make the scroll material 3 times. Small constitution, come, let the grandfather hold it. Xingyan quickly collected the newly completed seal scroll and turned to welcome. Oh, and I'm too, grandfather's beard. Xingyan's face was bitter, and Xianfeng was given to the Mido. Second grandfather, are you still busy making a seal reel? Can you help me with it? Mido smiled and said. No, I just made it. I was thinking about going to the column and the day to report a high. Xingyan mentioned here, still a little excited. Oh, congratulations to my grandfather. The column should be in the hall now, and it seems that I went out yesterday. Going out again? Which small family is not stable this time? Xingyan asked. Since more than 3 years ago, the column has been hit by a plague, and Qian and Uchiha have not started fighting again. It is estimated that the Uchiha wave spot is not sure to beat the column until now, and it is easy to go to war. In the past few years, although the fighting has continued, most of them have led the team to teach those who are not stable. It's not a small family. It seems to be a big name for the country of fire. The Mido replied. Deming? Xingyan has some doubts. The world of fire shadow is a world of ninjas, but it is not all. The whole country of fire, all the Kungs are together, the ninja is only a few 100,000, but the civilians are more than 10 million. It is the name of the country of fire that manages these thousands of civilians. The Kungs who will only fight and kill, do not understand what is found in the economy. Therefore, for the name of the country of fire, each of the Kungs is recognized and maintains the respect of the surface. However, the name of the country of fire is also understood. These Kung people, especially the 2 great families of Qianshou and Uchiha, are only superficial. This time, the name of the country of fire called 1,000 hands and people, so that Xingyan was very confused. With a doubt, Xingyan came to the patriarch's hall, followed by Mido and bear children. Father, Dad. The bear child shouted, and Xingyan's face was green. When he saw the column, the child became polite, and he only bullied him alone. No wonder every time the Mido is gloating in the back. Second grandfather, you are here, seal the scroll thing. The column opened. It has been completely completed. When I write down the specific production process, I can mass produce it. Xingyan smiled and said. Great. So I don't have to worry about logistics anymore in the future. There is a smile between the columns, he is. Oh, I went to the country of the fire in the daytime. It seems that there is something in the name of the country of fire. Don't worry about him, Grandpa. The opening between the columns does not care. After chatting with the column, Xingyan left the hall, went back and recorded the production method of the seal reel, and made a psychic scroll. The contract was good for the 4-handed sword. This busy period of time would come to an end. It is. It's been nearly 4 years since I left the whirlpool. I thought about resting for a few days, and bid farewell to the column and return to the whirlpool. Unexpectedly, I found Xingyan in the evening of the column. Second grandfather, just sent a letter back, this time the name of the country of fire called a lot of ninja, Uchiha, pig deer butterfly, oil girl, these families have arrived, I am afraid that I can't cope, think let you go. I am going? Xingyan said in confusion. You still have a lot of people in your hands, and you have nothing to do. The Uchiha family led the team with Chuenai. The spot did not go. I was not too convenient to see the name of the country of fire. The column was embarrassed to open. As for letting you go, it is a request. Say you are not very tuneful, no. He said that you sometimes have a good idea. I mean, I am quite awkward. Xingyan hated to open his mouth. Well, then I will go there. I will help you to support the scene. I will not come back. For years away from home, it's time to whirlpool again. I hope that the next time you meet your family's bear child can understand things, okay, trouble you. Also, where is my family Xianfeng not sensible? Your son is too sensible. Xingyan returned and walked out of the hall. Left a column between the black question mark face.